Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave, Springfield's pure classic rock. Mike the Intern.
Good morning.
Jay Stevens is just now waking up from his bed.
I'm not. I'm here. I'm alive.
Live on his satellite. From his bed, just rolled over. His bed is also the floor of our studio.
I look like I was
know that.
doing some shady stuff over here.
If you ever come in for an interview and you see a blanket and pillow on the
just
floor,
hop right in. Don't bother knocking. Come on in.
Jump right in with him.
Snuggle time.
He's cool with big or little spoon.
Snuggle time.
He's fine with it. Don't worry about it. Jay will make that happen. This is Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. And
once again, who picked the winner?
Hey,
who picked the winner?
I'll be the first to admit it. I give all the flack I give Jay, dude, those documentaries. And every time that I'm watching one he picks, that's badass. What do I do?
You say,
I start blowing.
You got me again.
You're not
Big
even looking
text,
at your phone.
Caps,
and there's
caps.
like 6 texts from me
All
about
caps.
all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened with our choice this week. Misha and the Wolves.
Hidden gem.
Before we do this, I want to make this extremely abundantly clear. We always say, hey, there's going to be spoilers in this conversation. And there are. But I implore you, if you have not seen the documentary Misha and the Wolves, I would never tell people not to listen to the station or not listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you right now,
come back after and listen to the podcast.
Do not listen for the next 50 minutes or so while we talk about this.
Telling people not to listen, though.
But I don't want them to ruin this because you told me exactly the same thing. You said
we gave ample warning to watch it. We do give ample warning to watch it.
And I had talked about it.
So what are they supposed to listen to if they don't listen to this for the next hour?
Just when you hear us start talking, do what you do. Like just walk away or
do what you do if I'm your wife. If I'm your wife, nagging at you to take out the trash.
Fast forward it.
Just
I don't know. Do whatever you do. But literally heed our warning.
Well, maybe let's do this because this one's so intense on the spoilers. As we're talking, when it's a spoiler time, okay, spoiler section, and so then they can just close their ears.
That's fine, but that's
I don't want them to. Where are they going to go listen to some other crappy radio station for the next hour?
Man.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah,
I would feel bad. I would feel bad having them have to listen to another station in town with a bunch of losers.
Before we talk about it, we'll say spoiler alert.
Yes.
So,
I'll take my shirt off every time there's a spoiler, so in case you're just watching, you'll know.
Spoiler alert. All right.
Spoiler alert.
Misha and the Wolves tells a story. Jay just fell out of bed again.
God, what's going on?
It tells a story of a woman from Belgium who, at one point, she's elderly. I think she was probably in her 50s or 60s at this point. She's Jewish and she's going to the synagogue, and it was on a holiday where she basically it's where you're supposed to deal with, pain and suffering.
Go up and say something,
yeah,
right?
Go up and say something, forgiveness, stuff like that. Anyway, she gets up and she, in front of all the people in the synagogue, tells a story about how she was a Holocaust survivor and that she was given to a Catholic family and they didn't treat her right. And she had found out that her parents, who, by the way, she didn't know what their last name was. She didn't even know her last name. That they had been arrested and deported back to Germany, and that was that. And you were with this family, and at 7 years old, decided to go find her family and set off on foot in Germany. And it was cold. How the hell did this 7-year-old girl survive this?
Through the forest with the compass, only a compass telling her which way to go.
Incredible story. And basically at one point, she interacts with these wolves. And they essentially kind of like protect her and
help her. They become her family. They feed her and stuff. They help her.
And it's
crazy. Protect her.
And then everyone in the synagogue just like, oh my Lanta, this is unbelievable. And we'll tell you what happened next. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. He's up out of bed, and we're talking Misha and the Wolves.
Well, I look like a homeless guy just woke up, and you look like you want to be Fred Durst.
Because I have my hat back on. Never say that to me.
No, turn it back around.
I'm never going to turn my hat back around.
Turn it back around and do it all for the nookie. Turn it back around and do it all for the nookie.
I'm not doing it. I'm never going to wear my hat backwards again. I was enjoying that, Jay.
You look like 10 years younger. When you did it yesterday, you had a hat backwards. You not even said something. It was like
college boy Mike. I didn't hear Fred Durst comment because then I would have had the same reaction.
Today, maybe yesterday you didn't look like Fred Durst. Side view, you didn't look like Fred Durst. Today you look like Fred Durst. It's okay.
I'm really upset.
He's a big star.
I hate Fred Durst and I hate Limp Bizkit. Sorry, Fred, but you suck.
Give me something to break.
And your band's trash.
Give me something to break.
Dark Side of the Stream and spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert time.
We're We're talking about Misha and the Wolves. And in the last break, we discussed the story this woman told at a synagogue about her surviving the Holocaust. It's an emotionally crazy story. And in the audience was a publisher, the small publishing company, and basically talked to her and said, hey,
this is an amazing story.
This is
she saw dollar signs. Ding, ding,
well, yeah, she did. But I mean, she also.
She saw Mario coins. Ding, 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 ding.
You know, so they publish it. And it gets traction. Oprah wants her for an interview. Disney wants to buy it. No questions asked.
It's a kid raised by wolves. Of course, it's a Disney story.
Have to pay, and it blows up.
Show me the money.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not huge, but it's gaining traction. I mean, it's getting optioned. It's basically the precursor to a lot of people making a lot of money off of one book.
Yes.
And then there's a falling out between the publisher that published this book and the woman.
Well, the woman didn't want to go do Oprah.
Well, that was part of it.
She goes, "No, I'm not. I don't feel like going. I don't want to do this."
She didn't want to leave her cats. She had all these excuses.
Yeah, she didn't want to.
They actually did film a segment for it, though, which this is really interesting. They take this woman out to a wolf sanctuary, which I've actually been to several in Colorado, and they're unbelievable. And the size of these animals. I mean, I love dogs, but this is not a dog, man. If you've ever seen a real wolf,
is it a big beast?
Dude, it's huge. They get this woman, they put her in the cage with this wolf. He basically lets her feed him, and then at one point opens its jaw, puts her head into its jaw,
she's cool.
and leaves it there. She just sits there,
and then she speaks wolf too. She does or whatever, and they all start howling again. Like she was down with the wolves.
You could not write
if you're raised with wolves, you know how to speak with wolves.
Unbelievable,
you know wolf
stuff.
talk.
Unbelievable. And like I said, I've been to a wolf sanctuary, and I've seen these things. It's unreal. It's crazy, but. The Oprah thing, coupled with the idea that possibly that publisher was kind of taking some out of the country royalties on the side,
there was
some bad blood.
Once again, the money deal screwed everything up.
Money got into an issue, and they basically went to court, and the jury sided with Misha, the woman, and basically
she was raised by wolves.
How do you go against a Holocaust
survivor that walked barefoot through wolf country?
You don't question it. Well, the jury sided with her and ordered that publisher to pay $22 million. But
we buy a lot of wolves.
We buy a lot of wolves. My friend Jay Stevens, revenge is a dish best served cold.
True,
and my friend, we will tell you how that exactly
twist number one
into
coming.
The story.
Twist number one of many twists coming.
Misha and the Wolves, Dark Side of the Stream, next on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio, Dark Side of the Stream, discussing Misha and the Wolves. Jay fell back in his bed. He's back here. Spoiler alert.
I'm haunted by wolves.
The wolves keep attacking him.
God, you son of a
man. That's so good.
What's going on today?
All right. So I've already told you, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
It's Misha and the Wolves. And we talked about how this woman told the story of this crazy survival of the Holocaust, being on her own at 7, not knowing her family's name.
Being raised by wolves in the woods.
Publisher, they put the book out. Disney wants it. Oprah wants her. She's making money. All of a sudden, they
fight about money.
And then she wins a judgment of $22 million. Well, the publisher is upset because she's like, this sucks. You know? And they basically transferred the publishing rights back to this woman, and then she sold it to a French company who then sold the book and made a fortune in the UK.
There was a bunch of versions in every language. There was a
several
movies, right?
Huge things. She'd go speak to kids. It was just, I mean, it was crazy. Well, the first publisher, she's like, man, this sucks. My publishing company's done. I just got ordered to pay $22 million. What the hell am I going to do? She starts going back through stuff, and she notices on a bank receipt that this woman wrote her real name and where she was born, which at this telling the story that
she didn't know her real name.
She didn't know where she was born, which that's weird.
Raised a red flag.
So they get this
spoiler alert time.
Involved.
Spoiler alert time right here.
This genealogist
Close your ears for a second. Go to the bathroom.
Who starts looking at the photos and going, man, things don't really match up. Her age doesn't match up. There's certain things, and then in the translation between the English version and the French version, her supposed name changes. And they're like,
again.
Why would she do that? That doesn't make any sense.
And then they were even saying, like, look at the hands of the guy that the guy that raised her. Whatever, was supposed to be a farmer, but he had like clean, manicured banker hands.
It was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it was some intense. So then it was like a rabbit hole of find everything about this chick.
They needed a lady on the ground in Belgium to kind of go through city records, because the thing you find out in this documentary is that Europe if it didn't get destroyed by war, they hold on to stuff. And in Belgium, they have records that go back a very long time. I mean, school attendance records, baptism records.
Yeah.
It's like that in the States,
and they
too.
said during the
it only
Holocaust,
goes back so far.
They would the record of kids, they would put them in like 7 different places.
That whole thing is, we'll get to that. I don't want to get to that yet.
Okay,
that's
deep
crazy
stuff. Wild,
So
wild.
they
wild.
basically get in touch with this woman who is also a Holocaust survivor who was given up and put into a Catholic family. Her story is unbelievable, but in the process of trying to figure out who her real family was, she became a genealogist because she had to get her own answers for her own personal life, and she became actually an expert.
Good at the job.
in
Yeah,
doing
right.
this.
That's great for
and
her.
so the publisher gives her this information, says, "Hey, can you look into this and see if this is true? If she was put into this Catholic family, if she did everything she said that she did in the story." She can't find anything. Can't find the people's her parents' name, supposedly. Can't find her name. Well, then they do a little bit detective work and they figure out who she really is. And she's actually an imposter. Her father was a resistance fighter who ended up getting arrested and then turned and decided with the Nazis and gave up all of the names of the resistance fighters. So she was actually raised by her maternal grandparents and known as the daughter of a traitor, which I'm sure wasn't
go over well,
really
right?
great for her
Not
to
the
grow
life
up
of the
in.
party.
And this Holocaust survivor is, it's horrific to pretend like you went through this, and because no one's going to question it.
Yeah.
And she's like, but at one point, she had a really good thing to say, which was, she's the victim and the villain in this story, and it's true, she was. But at one point she's going through and she wanted to make sure she had evidence, and she goes and finds the baptism record to confirm. She goes to the school, which they find the records by the grace of God, and then. The other thing about Belgium, when the war was going on, when kids would be taken from Jewish families, they kept a record. The Belgian officials did secretly kept a record of where they were put with what Catholic families that were still in Belgium.
Wild stuff.
And the way they kept this list was 4 separate journals that were hidden in Belgium in 4 separate places. So if the war didn't go the way they wanted it to, no one would know where these kids went.
Yeah, they'd have to find the 4 different pieces, the puzzle, like puzzles.
Yeah. So, but if they did win, then they could put them all back together and they could trace it later on, which is what they did and why these things are able to be found out. So, yes, the woman was a fraud. It's crazy. Oh man, I was sitting there watching it and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so tough. This is so, oh my God. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. Why is Oprah involved?
Just one of these twists.
No, she got suckered again.
Her and Epstein, man. They get them all. They always get Oprah. Everybody gets Oprah.
We'll figure out how many wolves we give this documentary next. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Springfield's pure classic rock. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, and we have come to the conclusion of our subject, Misha and the Wolves. No more spoilers because we're just going to rate it. We already talked about it. So
3.5 wolves for me.
3.5 wolves for you.
3.5 wolves.
Okay. Well, I'd say definitely a solid 4. That was a great story. It's interesting. Maybe you and I are just two idiots that just never knew about the story. Because when Krista came home, she's like, "What are you watching?" And I told her, and she goes, "Oh, you're watching." Because she sometimes likes to watch what we're watching every week,
right?
And she goes, "Oh yeah, I know about that." And I was like,
"What?
How'd you know about this?" Well, it was early 2000s when this, or 2000 when this went down, and I was going through. Party years. At that time.
We were doing other things.
Anyway,
we were making
really paying
Mike and I were making
too much then.
Series of bad choices.
I think
we were raised by the streets during these times.
I think I just started working for a radio station at that time,
gosh,
which was this one in Burning Bridges. So anyway, 4 solid. It's my turn for the next Dark Side of the Stream.
I already have my next one too, by the way.
Bob
I started
Ross.
Dude, you picked mine.
Happy Accidents.
I was watching it last night.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
good.
okay,
I'm
good,
halfway
good.
through it.
Good.
Yes, that was going to be mine. I was going to surprise you with that. Damn it.
Now you got to do well.
Damn you, Mike the Intern.
You got me going through these crazy ones. I kind of got jonesing for the crazy ones. So we're going to watch Bob Ross on Netflix next.
Happy trees.
Don't do what you did this
Happy
week. If you didn't watch it.
Yeah,
so you
don't be
don't
left
have
behind.
to put your fingers in your ears for an hour. You can actually listen to us
We're all
talk about
coming
the
with
story.
Bob Ross Froze
and we
next
don't ruin
week.
it for you. As always, download it as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app. And you can always watch it live on Facebook. Dark Side of the Stream, 104.7 The Cave.